This question says, you previously answered why you don't do partial range of motion training for the squat, but why don't you do extra range of motion training on the squat or the bench, like high bar squats for the greater depth or cambered bar benching for the bench? Let me start off by saying that I think cambered bar benching is a great exercise for the bench, but since very few people have access to a cambered bar, we don't really program those in the guided programming very much. Now, with that said, if you do have a cambered bar and you want to work it into your program, I would recommend subbing out some of your chest level pin presses for cambered bar bench. I would not do the full cambered bar because the standard cambered bar is going to be about a 4-inch increase in your range of motion, and that's pretty dramatic. Most people don't have the shoulder flexibility to do that, and it kind of puts you in some not great positions. So what I'll do is I'll take a one board, I'll do cambered bar one board benching, so it's reducing it to a little more than a 2-inch increase in your range of motion, and that seems to be pretty good. You know, it's a clearly noticeable increase in your range of motion, but it's not so much that it puts you in a bad position. Now, the reason we don't really do extra range of motion squatting is because I don't feel like it's really needed. The weak range of motion for almost everybody in the raw squat is somewhere above parallel. It's around that 90-degree knee flexion range, which you might think is right at parallel, but you got to remember most people have a little bit of dorsiflexion in the bottom of their squat, so 90 degrees on the knee is going to put you slightly above parallel. Now, if that's your weak range of motion, in the squat, training extra range of motion is really just full on legal depth. And if you train full legal depth in the squat, then I don't really see a need for extra range of motion. I don't know what that gets us other than maybe some strength in those ranges of motion. So if you went to a meet and you had to squat deeper than you were used to, you have the strength reserve available to do that. And that's not a bad training objective, but I think that if you're training to legal depth, then that's really not much of a concern, or at least it hasn't been a concern for anybody that I've worked with at this point. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, let me know.